Okay, this is Aaron again with Exalted Lamb 1, and here I am. I'm back. I had to really think about it and pray, but 4th of July, 4th and 5th of July haven't happened yet. Okay, that's going to sound really bizarre, but this is my theory, and I think I'm going to do my best to prove it. So, just for all you that have donated, because of my situation of being sick, I'm still sick, but it's getting better. I'm thankful. Thank you. Um, and if you've donated to me and I've sent you an email, you'll know what that's about. I appreciate you responding. That would be very beneficial. So I thank you so much. If you've donated and you haven't looked at your email yet, that would be very beneficial. So just letting you guys know, thank you so much for everything. It's been very helpful since I've been kind of down to a degree, and it seems like every few days I have some new symptom. Um, anyway, so without further ado, I want to get into this, and I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. I spent a lot of time today doing this. Again, I'm not really able to work fully. I did some work, but my situation stops that from happening fully. I'll be able to do some, but with the help, that was really helpful, and I can actually still put this together. So, and it's taken quite a while to put this together, even still. It's not going to be as long as it normally is, but let me just get right to it. And again, this is a theory of mine, and I think it proves out. But again, I'm speculating, like I always say. This may happen, this may not this way, but I think there's a very good chance it will. Okay, so I'm just throwing that out there. So, like I said, 4th and 5th of July haven't happened yet, and let me tell you why. Okay, so, and there's a code that's based on what I'm talking about in the death of Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, and the death and somewhat life of both, but the death and of Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. And I'm going to explain here in a little bit. But I just mentioned to you that there's definitely a code in there. And so when nothing happened, as far as the tsunamis and everything, but substantial things happened on the 4th and 5th, i.e. the earthquakes. So I'm going to talk about that. Okay, now I got to touch on this, and I apologize. The person who brought this to my attention, I cannot remember their name, so forgive me. You're in the comments, but this really opened my eyes to this. So in Independence Day, which I've talked about in a couple videos, Independence Day, there's Randy Quaid's character. He's basically taking his fighter jet up into the spaceship where it's about to shoot down a beam and destroy, but he gets in the way of it, and then he says, "Hello, boys, I'm back." Okay, and that is a code for the Antichrist, Barack Obama, coming back, and here's why. 44 right behind him, 440, 44th president. And right there on his helmet, as he says it, he turns to his right, basically, and you see slightly, not until that moment, a devil. It says devil, and it's got wings and horns and a tail. It says devil. So it might as well say, "Hello, boys, I'm Barack." Anyway, that's my joke. But that's what it is. That's what it's signaling. Okay, that's more signaling in Independence Day. And I'm not going to even get into Independence Day and Gematria and everything. It's crazy what it equals, all kinds of stuff. You can do it yourself if you like. Okay, so, and that equates to, hey, guess what? Hurricane Barry is about to form. And this is ramping up for this time frame I'm talking about, right? That's coming up here. Hurricane Barry, as in Barry Soetoro? I wonder why that's called Hurricane Barry. And guess what? It's going after the Gulf Coast. It's going to wreak some major havoc and rain. We've heard that before with Lane and with Harvey. And it might, my suspicion is it's going to go more towards Texas. And this will be perfect for them because they have to. I actually had a few people ask me over the last few months, several months, if there's a West Coast and an East Coast tsunami, what about the Gulf? Well, Barry, the former commander-in-chief, the head of the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, the head of the Luciferian global elites, is going to make sure that's taken care of with the hurricane after one of his names, Barry. Okay, and it's on by about Saturday. Today is the 10th. Basically, Saturday is the 13th, I think. Anyway, it should be Hurricane Barry, and I'm going to predict it's going to be Hurricane Barry. I know that's a shock to a lot of you, but it's going to be Hurricane Barry, but I'm going to say possibly that it's going to hit more towards Texas, and they need it to attack Texas because when all this stuff happens, Texas needs to be taken out even more than it is right now. And I've done the calculations when it comes to the where he's going to stop the sacrifice in the middle of the tribulation, the Antichrist. We're going to have the temple and everything built. The whole temple's going to be built, but they're missing a lot of gold, and they want the gold that's in Texas. They're salivating over it. They're waiting for the time, and this may be the precursor to that for attacking Texas and that whole area down there with all this rain. Plus, you have all this algae that's toxic that's on the shores right now. I mean, it is a perfect storm, pardon the pun, for what's going on right now. The timing couldn't be better for what I'm talking about. So there's the dragon blowing out smoke out his nose. Anyway, I like to poke fun because this guy's an evil dude, and he's a clone, basically. Okay, so in Stranger Things Season 3, some of you have watched it or are going to watch it or watched part of it, whatever. I've watched part of it. I've been watching all, first 2 seasons, and I've seen a lot of the symbolism of the upside down, and I know what that means. The demonic coming into the real world through a portal. I mean, we're talking about CERN, we're talking about demon possession, we're talking about so many different things. And then look, it just happens to come out in July 4th, and there was that trailer with the apple dropping. You can check it out if you haven't seen it. And someone brought it to my attention when I did one of my videos, and then eventually I noticed that JK did a thing on it or whatever, but I didn't watch it. So this is crazy. Of course, 4th of July is equating to this time with the upside down coming back through, and just the craziness of this. Now, in this first episode, there is this machine. In the very beginning of the very first episode, if you watch it, there's a machine, and it looks very, very reminiscent of the inside of the Hadron Collider of CERN, as we've also seen in Avengers Endgame. When they time travel, right above them, it looks like this, kind of, but a little bit different colors. This is crazy. There's so much going on here. But this is a machine that is an electromagnetic machine or something like that. I can't explain exactly what it is, but they're using this kind of machine to shoot into this wall in this movie. Well, this is predictive programming. There's a similar machine that's going on and actually shooting into the ground and causing different things. But I'm going to show you this. Now here it is shooting into this wall, but if you kind of tip it up to the right, it's just imagine it's shooting, it's in the air somewhere, or maybe triangulated from from Antarctica or something like I've shown on these different maps in the past, showing radio waves, or I guess there may be some kind of microwave. I can't exactly explain what that is, but it's electricity. Anyway, it shoots it into they use that to control different forms, to control start and stop hurricanes, to do earthquakes. Maybe they're different machines, I don't know. But what this said to me when I was watching this, it said this is an earthquake machine, and that's what it's simulating. So see, as you notice here, it starts a crack. Right here, there's a crack right there. Okay, now check this out. Okay, so then it shows a machine from another angle going to this wall. And just imagine it's turned sideways. Okay, and here it is. Now it's making a crack. Okay, and then I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the earthquakes that are happening in Ridgecrest, and like I mentioned, Ridgecrest is equal to Meghan Markle, which is anyway a type of Antichrist figure showing the birth of the Antichrist is coming soon. Now look at this. This is the crack that's miles long outside of Ridgecrest, and I mean, does it look similar or what? And just think about this crack. Just think about something coming down and causing this earthquake, which they are. I mean, if you don't know, I'm letting you know. And then check this out. It looks like something hit it here. I mean, it's a big on crack, and it's going anyway. And they've also photoshopped this too, which I can tell. There's actually in the final ones, there's two faces in this. It's really crazy. Anyway, I, to me, this is predictive programming of this weapon. Maybe it's a multiple use weapon, or maybe it's a couple different weapons, but this one is an example of the weapon they're using to create earthquakes. Now, if you don't believe me, or you wanted more information, go to my brother Logic Before Authority's channel, Logic Before Authority. Watch one of his last few videos about how the earthquakes are made, or basically are being caused. And he basically goes through several earthquakes recently that all had a depth, and he shows it, of 6.2 miles. And these all had a depth of 6.2 miles. That is not natural for all of them to have a depth of 6.2 miles unless it's planned that way. Anyway, he does a great job. It's Daniel Alexander Cannon with Logic Before Authority, my brother. And usually we're on a lot of the same tracks on a lot of things, and we have been for almost 11 months. He's been doing it longer than me, and he does different things about time travel and different things, and different subject matter than me and things like that. But we have a lot of similar tracks that we get onto. And sometimes I'm on the same track when he's on a similar track. So it's pretty crazy. So I just want you to remember this is in New York, and there's been several cities like Dallas and I think it was North Carolina or something, where they've seen this big blue lights, and then, like, for example, it was like an EMP, and then lights went out, or they just saw this big blue light. Big blue light shooting down, causing craziness. There's many accounts of this. Okay, this is an example of Argentina when the power went out, and the sky was all blue, even though it was dark, but the sky was all blue. Imagine that. And that was on 6/16/2019. Okay, and then, like I mentioned in my last couple of videos, a couple of videos ago, it happened at 7:07 a.m. And I thought they might be signaling to July 7th for something to happen, but it didn't happen. Now I think I know what they're signaling, and I'll tell you later. And then they also had in Buenos Aires, their capital, during this time, they showed all these pictures of this power outage, and they kept showing the big obelisk in the capital. And then in the daytime, the shadow would basically go across the city, like I mentioned in one of my last videos, and go across this little obelisk right here, which is a center of a clock, and it basically read as a clock with a shadow, 7:07. Okay, so again, there's several things that are signaling 7:07. And I mentioned when Trump and Kim Jong-un got together before 4th of July, a couple days before 4th of July, they were sitting, and there were several 7:07s. For example, behind Kim Jong-un were 7 Korean flags from left to the center, and then behind Trump were 7 American flags from the right to the center. That's another 7:7. So anyway, I think I know what it might be signaling, so I'm going to tell you in a little bit here. Okay, so this is how my theory starts. Okay, on why we haven't experienced really 4th and 5th of July yet. Okay, all right, and again, everything for years, and especially the last year and months, there's several dates, several events, and all that kind of are signaling to the ultimate events that start the tribulation, that start the attack on America, and they do all this signaling up to this point for their religion, for Luciferian global elite, Kabbalah, religious practices, and all the stuff they believe, Luciferianism. I mean, the whole thing that they do. Okay, so I think I've unlocked a code, and I think basically the Lord kind of guided me to what this is. Okay, so this is the Anthem Veterans Memorial in basically just on the outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, in Anthem, Arizona. Okay, if you're not familiar with this, they have 5 pillars that represent the different branches of military, and they have a hole through each one, and it's supposed to, on the right side, as you can see, on 11/11, so November 11th at 11 a.m., the sun shines exactly through these holes and then lights up this, the Great Seal of America. Okay, now I already know what this means. It means that at some point, 11/11/11 means that the seal, which is... Well, before I do that, let me say this first, actually. The seal, which is really not an eagle, it's a phoenix. And guess what? It's in Phoenix. It's on the outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona. Okay? That's crazy. That's not by coincidence. And there's so much with Anthem, and there's so much with where it is, and geographically and everything. It's crazy. I'm not getting into all that. Okay, but basically, that's when the destruction of the United States begins. So 11/11/11. So November 11th at 11 a.m. The sun's supposed to shine through and light up the Great Seal. And what is it? What do they say about it? Here's one article. It says, and then I just highlighted a little bit Phoenix, because it's really a phoenix. The eagle on the dollar bill is really a phoenix. It's not really an eagle. It has double meaning because Masons don't want you to know exactly what it really means. So Phoenix, Arizona, Anthem Veterans Memorial. Listen to this tongue-in-cheek thing. Once a year, at exactly 11/11, this monument comes to life. And so it's their way of saying the phoenix comes to life. It comes out of the ashes and lights up, and that's, of course, the sun god that lights up the phoenix, and it comes to life. And so that's the enemy, basically, in a sense. That's Lucifer coming into Barack Obama, the Antichrist, at that time, starting the tribulation. So, okay, so again, this is not really an eagle, it's a phoenix. Okay, it's really a phoenix, and there's a number of things that point to that, but right here I want to show you this. I've shared this before, but right here, why are these stars in this order? You got this. You got basically the Star of Molech, okay? Or, as some people think, the Star of David, but it's really the Star of Molech. I didn't draw that very well, but it is the star. It's that six-pointed star, two triangles within each other, one upside down, one right side up, and there's a star in the middle, which represents the eye. And then out of many, one. So they're going to take everybody and then bring it into one world government. And you have all these things of 13s. The feathers have 17, which is their victory. There's so much in 17. 13 is number for rebellion. And if you don't believe that, then why do we have an eye in the triangle, basically the capstone? This is, the all-seeing eye that all these celebrities do, that is worshipped. Okay, this is, and it's a pyramid. This is not Christian in any way. Down here is 1776, reminiscent of, right here, 1776, reminiscent of what we just had, 4th of July. Okay, 4th and 5th of July, just depends on your time zone. And so that hasn't happened yet, but it's going to. And that's the reason why it says 1776, not only the birth, but it's the coming birth. Because it says announcing the birth of the new order of the ages, down at the bottom here. Okay, the new order, announcing the birth of the new order of the ages. So that hasn't happened yet. Okay, so this is right here in Roman numerals, 1776. Like I've mentioned in my last few videos, 1776 is synonymous with 4th of July, the founding of the country, founding of the country, okay, which will also be the end of the country, but kind of hidden because the 4th and 5th of July haven't happened yet. And I'll explain. There's so much in all this symbolism. It's crazy. Okay. Now, I want to talk about this 11/11/11 in a different way. Now, back in November of 2018, I did a video, and I'm going to put a link in the description box to my video. You can go back on my channel, but most people don't. So I'll put a link in it about Light Up Black Friday. It was an ad by Walmart, and it was so devilish, I can't even say. It was ridiculous. But so in that, I saw a lot of signaling for different things of, this all starting, but in a code of 1122, which is really 11/11/11, because 22 is made up of 11 and 11. Okay, and then it had these guys dancing. They're popular dance guys in the dark, and then their clothes are all lit up. But you see their pants make 11s, 11/11/11/11. It's really crazy if you really look at it. And the guy in the center, he's doing a pose like being crucified. So they're looking for the day the Christians get basically killed. And that's what this is signaling, I'm telling you. Okay, and then there's this woman. She says, the deals have, and I did the gematria on that. Check out the whole thing on that video, which is only about 18 minutes long. But she's a symbol, another symbol of the Antichrist. She's a black woman, kind of, like Barack Obama is supposed to be a black person, kind of. He's really not, but that's the symbolism. And then we have like I've mentioned, the ultraviolet glasses, and then the blood mouth, ready to eat blood, and the teeth almost look like, their fangs a little bit. Doesn't look good. And then right here you have pink. Okay, you have ultraviolet right here, and then you have pink. And as I've shown you many times in iPad Go, remember with the explosions behind the death figure, the first slide I just showed you on this, there is an ultraviolet and a pink explosion. And Obama, when he's on iPad Go, he's sitting in a pink chair, and he has a ultraviolet tassel. Okay, so there's all kinds of things in media that show, like, sometimes a black person, a lot of times a black person, and other people, like I've shown the Black Panther in one of the last few videos, and he has ultraviolet in his little kind of the technology in his suit that gives him power. Anyway, this has both pink, which represents the effeminate, and ultraviolet, which represents royalty / the light of Lucifer, which has the highest vibration, like I've mentioned. Okay, so they say 1122, 1122, 1122, and then 18 is just a constellary thing there. But 1122 is really 11, 11, 11. So there's another example of the code of 11, 11, 11. So for a long time I was like, is that the date? I mean, what does this mean? And now I think I know what it means now. Okay, again, this is my theory, and I'm going to see if I can prove it out to you. But you be the judge, okay? You be the judge, and we'll see if these events play out like I think they could. Okay, so we have Abraham Lincoln. Okay, his death was April 15th, 1865. Well, there's a lot going on here, so let me do this. So April is 4. Let me do a little bit of the what they do with numbers. Okay, this is what they do with numbers. I'm just exposing what they do. So 1 plus 5 is 6. I'm just to make this real simple. 1 plus 8 is 9. 6 plus 5 is 11. You just got to keep reducing it. So 4 plus 6 is 10. And then 9 plus 11, 9 plus, or you just say 9 plus, we could do it this way. 9 plus 11 is, I'm going to do it this way. It's just the way they do it. So it's 11, just keep 11 here. And then 10 plus 9 is 19. 1 plus 9 is 10, and take away the 0. So anyway, man, I'm a little off today, but it's 111 basically. It's 111. That's what this is. And you're like, yeah, right, whatever. Well, let me show you a lot more. Okay, so Lincoln was pronounced dead at 7:22 a.m. 7 plus 2 plus 2 is 11. Ooh, he died at age 56. 5 plus 6 is 11. So there's a bunch of 11s going on here. So I'm going to tell you something. This is a symbol of 11 over 11. Okay, 11, 11, that's a symbol of 11, 11. Okay, and then we have other 11s here. There's more. And like I mentioned, a lot of things are pointing to Lincoln and the 4th of July and what's coming up in the real 4th of July. But the 4th of July that we just experienced, and 4th and 5th of July, we had the Lincoln Memorial, we had the Abram tanks, which is short for Abraham. Abraham in the Bible was first called Abram. We have an Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf right now, which probably will be attacked. That could be a major thing that escalates this that's coming up, or something like that. Okay, so again, here's more stuff here, and like I mentioned in my last video, so apparently at 10:15, John Wilkes Booth slipped into the box where Lincoln was, fired his .44 caliber single shot, and this is just some extra things I'm going to mention. Remember I said Barack Obama's 44, and then guess what? Remember I said in the last video, 10, or the video before that, I think the video before that, 10 and 15 this is a /5. This is 10-5, which is the 10th letter of the alphabet is J, and that's 5. That's July 5th, which hasn't happened yet. 4th or 5th of July have not happened yet. So this is all forecasting this to come in his assassination. So you have these 11-11-11s. We have the 5th of July, basically, in a Lincoln assassination. Okay. Now let's look at Kennedy. Now, I just wanted to throw this in here because I feel like he was somewhat of a hero. Some people really get deep into conspiracies and all that stuff, think that he was in this big conspiracy and all that. I don't think so. Well, I could be wrong, but that's not the point. The point is what the messaging is saying that you're getting from this. But he did have a statement where he's talking about secret societies, and I'm just going to read this a little bit. For we are opposed around the world by by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. Now, see, I don't think that they would mention this, especially back then. Now, they're more likely to say something like this stuff out in the, out there in movies or just stuff like that. But at that time, it was super secret. So that's why I think it's a huge evidence that he was against that and he got killed for it. And he was a sacrifice, just like Lincoln was. And they were threats. These two were threats to their status quo. Okay, you can read the rest of it. Okay, but I just want to put that there. He's one of my heroes. I read his book called Profiles in Courage when I was a kid, and then I thought that he was very liberal as I got older, but then I came back to understanding that I believe he actually was going their way, and then he stood up against them and started saying things and doing things, and they had to get rid of him and use him as a sacrifice. And as an example, again, another type of Antichrist in a sense, because he was a president, he did have a head wound, different things like that. So I just want to mention this. Also, on June 4th, 1963, a virtually unknown presidential decree, Executive Order 11110, was signed into the authority to basically strip the bank of its power to loan money to the United States federal government at interest. With the stroke of a pen, again, this was huge against them, against the Federal Reserve, against the big banks. President Kennedy declared that the privately owned Federal Reserve Bank would soon be out of business. So this is an article from the Christian Law Fellowship, has exhaustively researched this matter through the Federal Register and Library of Congress. We can now safely conclude that this executive order has never been repealed, amended, or superseded by any subsequent executive order. In simple terms, it is still valid. So, and you look at this for a second. Executive Order 1111. Again, we have 1111. 1111. Okay, and I'm writing it this way because I know a lot of you Christians that are seeing my videos, and me and my wife, we've seen 1111 in the last few years so many times. Between us, maybe 1,000 times, me and my wife. I mean, I don't know how many times on different things, especially the clock at different times. It has been unreal. And so I believe God is signaling us to this time and what 1111 means. I'm going to get into that. But also check out the date of this. Okay, so June 4th, okay, 1963. Okay, so 6 and 4 is 10, 1 and 9 is 10, and 9. So this makes, guess what? 10 and 9 is 1, so this is 1, 1. This ends up being, so if you just keep adding, so 10 and 10, you could say 10 and 10. You could do this any way you want because it works out any way you do it, any way you add it. You could say 10 and 10 is 20, plus 9 is 29, 2 plus 9 is 11. This is weird how this works. I don't know how this works, but it works. So anyway, you could get rid of the zeros and go 1 plus 1 plus 9 is 11. You can do it. I mean, it is crazy how this thing works, but you can add these things anyway. But there's 11. There's 11, 11, and then executive order was written on 11, which is 11. So there's 11, 11, 11. Look at this. 11, 11, 11. Again, 11, 11, 11. And relating to Kennedy. Okay, now let's do this again. Again, remember I said 1122, 1122. That was in that Walmart ad. I mean, here we go. We got 11. And then 22 is 11 plus 11. There's 11, 11, 11. And there's even more here. So 10 plus 6 plus 3 is what, people? Sorry, 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 3 is 19. 1 plus 9 is 1. So again, we just have all these ones. We can look at it that way. But right here, just right here is 11, 11, 11, and another 1. I mean, this is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I mean, it's crazy. So I think there's a code here. What do I think that means? These two guys, they've encapsulated basically Luciferian global elites have encapsulated in their sacrifice their numbers. In fact, they made up a bunch of these numbers and they manipulated these guys to basically say what they wanted it to say and to kill them on the precise time and day. And maybe the time wasn't exactly right. Maybe they made it up. Maybe they worked in situations to get people to put the wrong times. I mean, this is all contrived. This is all controlled. And I see it especially in every freaking news article around right now. It is so full of control and manipulation, and all they're signaling right now. I mean, there's so many things that equal 666 and 6, and 7-7, and I mean it's off the charts. And I've done videos on that. So, and there's several people that have done that do videos on this kind of stuff, and it's just off the charts as far as the numbers. You could not make this up. This could not be happenstance. There's no way. Okay, so now I want to talk about, check this out. This is weird. So from November 11th, 2018, 11/11, okay, and they did a ceremony and everything. Trump did a thing in Paris on 11/11 and all that stuff. Then you add 236 days. Remember, I've said in my videos, 6/23 is the birth of the Antichrist, or you can say that looks like the 23rd of June. Okay, I need to pause for a second. Okay, so you might hear one or two of my twins in the background, but I'm just going to keep moving on here. So that's the 23rd of June, or you could say, of course, not 6/23 backwards, 236. Okay, but you add that to November 11th, and you get July 5th, the date that actually hasn't happened yet, but we did see it on the Gregorian for sure, July 5th. Okay, now we go to the next thing here. So now, remember 11/22, 11/22. You should watch that little clip of Walmart thing. It's pretty crazy. It's kind of catchy, but it's really sick, the imagery and everything, what's in there. And I break it down, and I have a link in the description box. So you add, again, 6/23 or 23/6 to that, and you get, July 16th, which is really the real July 5th. And I'm going to explain why. Okay, but it's crazy how these things are tied to these 11/11/11s, either in 11/11 at 11 a.m. or 11/11/11 as in November 22nd. Okay, I think I've solved this code. It's pretty crazy. I should say Jesus has solved the code, and he's just letting me in on it and guiding me to it. Okay, so this is a crazy fact. The year 1752 then began on 1st of January. There remained the problem of aligning the calendar in use in England with that in use in Europe. It is also true that when the British government decided to alter the calendar and skip these 11 days, get more evidence it's off by 11 days, based on the original Julian calendar switching to the Gregorian calendar, many people, listen to this is crazy, many people in Britain mistakenly believed that their lives would be shortened by 11 days, and that was called they would say, give us our 11 days, and that was called the English calendar riots of 1752. A crazy little fact in history, and that even proves what I'm saying. The calendar's off by 11 days. So guess what? The Julian calendar was actually more accurate, and Pope Gregory changed it to Gregorian. Of course, the Vatican had its grubby mitts in the evil Vatican that I've showed many times, and the evil pope that we have right now, and actually all the popes have been evil, but because they have the nerve to say that they're in the place of Christ, the vicar of Christ, in the place of Christ. That is absurd. Jesus is our personal relationship with him, is the goal of Christianity, what it is, what Christianity means, to know Jesus and walk with him. And he has the nerve to say he's the vicar, or the in place of Christ. Anyway, so they have to hide what is the real date is, and they've done it in different ways. They went from the real time, the beginning of the calendar, in the spring, to make it January 1st, like I show here. They changed it to beginning on January 1st in the winter, when God in the Hebrew calendar stuff, definitely in his whole system, started in the spring. Okay, they're changing the times and laws so people can't understand what time we're actually in. Okay, so what am I saying? 11/11/11, what is that? Okay, I'm saying that the first 11 days, there's sections of 11 days, and they started on 6, 12, and 13. The reason why I'm saying it's a 2-day start is because that's when the attacks are going to happen, like I've mentioned 1,000 times in my videos, over 2 days. It's one moment, but it's represented over the span of 6 different time zones, starting with Hawaii Standard Time and ending with Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so the first 11 days is represented by 6/12 and 6/13, or 6/12 through 6/13 through 6/23 and 6/24. Okay, so those are the first section of 11 days, and I'm gonna attempt to prove that in a little bit here. Prove my hypothesis the best I can. Okay, so the second 11 days is 623 or 623 and 24 through 74 and 75. That's the second 11 set of 11 days. And then the last set of 11 days is 7-4, July 4th and 5th through July 15th and 16th. And that's 11-day span. Okay, so I'm going to show this to you why I'm saying this. Okay, so in iPet Goat, like I mentioned, when Lily, the character, drops the apple on her dress right here, and I've shown this in other videos more detailed, but you're just going to have to look at it deeper yourself or look at my other videos to see the more detail. But right here, oops, I'll just show you. Right here is a 6 backwards. It's an upside down 2 and an upside down 3. And this is 623. And 623 represents the birth. Okay, and I've explained that in former videos, a few videos ago with my iPad Go 2 completely solved videos, a few videos back, all 3 of them. And you can watch those. Please watch those to get a more understanding of what this all means and how 923 equals 623 and all that stuff. So on that particular day, on A623, the apple drops. Okay, and then it falls, and when it first turns and you get to that spot right here, which again, this represents Jupiter. Also, there's a spot on Jupiter. It's the birth of Jupiter. Okay, it's the birth of the Antichrist. This is the sun, so this is the first day right here. And then it rolls across the floor, goes across the 7, which is the 7th day, rolls across this sea, and rises, rolls across here. As I've mentioned this all in my previous videos, and when it finally hits Obama's foot, it's the 8th day. It goes back and forth a couple times. I've shown this. Watch my other videos. And then on the 11th day, which is signaled by the 11 on the leaf, it splits open. Okay, so on the first set of 11 days, start on June 12th through 13th. Why am I saying that? Because on actually exactly June 12th, and the coverage was on mainly June 13th, because there's usually somewhat of a delay, and then it's also, but it actually happened on June 12th. Okay, there was 2 Japanese oil tankers attacked. And I knew when that happened, I basically heard the Lord say, this is going to be used as the beginning of World War III. Okay, so I looked at this as very significant in the war with Iran and World War III. This was the first major significant event, and guess what? It starts at the very beginning of our first 11 days. Okay, very substantial. This is what I'm saying. And then as the apple rolls, goes past 7, and then basically goes past the 8, and then finishes the 8 by touching Obama's foot. Again, this is all about the birth of the Antichrist, Obama, but it's not necessarily has to do with him. It has to do with the war and attacks and things that represent and will result in his birth and him being reintroduced into the world as the leader that's going to solve all the problems, the Antichrist. Okay, so on the 8th day right here, on June 20th, what happened? Well, there was a U.S. drone shot down by Iran, U.S. officials say, right? It was about $100 million supposedly. Now these, who knows how real all this stuff is, but this is what they're telling the public, and so it doesn't really matter. They're signaling, their messaging, and everything that they say they're sharing, whatever contradicting stories, whatever, it doesn't matter. It matters what it's telling the population, what it's signaling people, the predictive programming and everything. That's what matters. So what actually happened and who did what is usually not what they say. Okay, these are all false flags to control the masses and to create a narrative to bring people to a certain place so they can fool them. Listen, the enemy does not want people knowing that there's people behind the scenes fooling people and making up a war, making up wars in all of history, doing all kinds of things to get people to believe that all these things are happening, so they eventually have to accept the mark of the beast and go into the beast system, take the neural lace and get injected into their body, and they're basically plugged into the system, and they basically have no control, they have no free will anymore, and they're basically damned forever. So it's horrible. So anyway, let me keep going. Oh, okay, this thing's freaking out. Hold on. Okay, technical difficulties. So that's what happened on June 20th. Believe it or not, on the 8th day. Okay, on that first set of 11 days, on the 8th day, and then now we go to starting on the day over again. The first 11 days, the next 11 days. Okay, this is like a weird time loop. that's in here, okay? And I really feel like the Lord's led me to uncover this. And I'm going to show you. It seems weird, but they're really into altering time. In fact, they're going to just really blow a hoax over people about the Antichrist being the real Savior, or being that Jesus come, and it has to do with time travel and all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. They're going to really put one over on most people. And so this is like a time loop right here. So this is the next section of 11 days. Okay, so it starts with June 23rd through 24th. Now, like I mentioned, June 12th through 13th. Now just think of June 12th. June 12th is 612. And again, like I mentioned in my previous video, 612 is 6/2. And then the year 2019 breaks down into 3. So that's 6/23. It's a way that they can look at it. Okay, so this is another birth on a 623, which is obviously 623, June 23rd. A little bit more obvious than the 612, but it's 6/12/2019, which equals 623 in a different way. Okay, again, it's a birth. It's the birth of Jupiter in the Revelation 12 sign, and she represents the Virgin with 12, the Revelation 12 sign in a 6 sort of way, in their way. Okay, but there's a real birth going to happen of the man-child into heaven, which is the bride of Christ. Okay, so what happened on this day? Well, we got to escalate even more tensions with Iran with World War III. Trump announces hard-hitting sanctions against Iran, and he signed an executive order giving them the hardest-hitting sanctions on that day. It's crazy. Okay, that's super substantial, super, for this escalation of this war, which equals the birth of the Antichrist. Okay, so then we have the 8th day after that, okay, which is July 1st, and I've covered this in my other previous videos. There were substantial things that happened on July 1st, and guess what? This apple hits Obama's foot, and Obama's foot is a symbol of a submarine. If you look at the full thing, I'm not going to get into it right now, but it's a submarine. I may show you later in one of these slides. I can't remember. I think it does show in one of the slides a little bit better, but it is a submarine shape. It's designed that way. So what happened on July 1st? Several things I chronicled in my other videos, but the main thing that happened was a submarine skirmish. Okay, so whatever happened, whether it was an American submarine and a Russian sub that got into it, or it was just a Russian sub that was on the seafloor and something happened and seamen died, or whatever. It actually happened. Technically, it happened on July 1st, but we reported on July 2nd, and we also had a Chinese submarine fire a test missile. Really, the first time that was on that day as well. We also, like I chronicled, we had the July 1st was the first day that Iran went over enriching uranium. It was a deadline, and that was on July 1st. So there were several things that happened on that day. But as far as Apple hitting Obama's foot being a submarine, 2 major things happened, especially this. Okay, so then we had July 4th and 5th is the beginning, okay, of the last 11 days. Okay, it's the beginning of the last 11 days. And remember, like I said in my previous videos, July 4th and 5th on the Gregorian equals 6th month, 2nd and 3rd day on the Chinese lunar calendar. So again, that's 623 right here. The birth happens again. It's a weird time warp that they're presenting here. And the apple drops again for the 3rd and last time. And guess what? 11, 11, 11. 11 plus 11 plus 11 equals 33. And that's in their belief. It's all in major religions. 33 is a big number for a number of things. But in Masonry and Illuminati, 33 is like the top order as far as being a master and that kind of stuff. The 33rd degree Masons. So 33 is a big symbolic number for them. And so you have 11, 11, 11 is 33 also. Okay, this is going to trip you out here. So what happened on 4th and 5th of July? Well, we had labor pains. This is massive. This is how close we are. Because imagine, okay, we're talking about a twin birth that I've been talking about for a while now. A good and bad birth. Good man, bad man, okay? And there's got to be labor pains, okay? Now check this out. On the 4th, right here, okay, was these earthquakes, and it shows here July 4th was a 6.4. July 5th was this 7.1 right here. Okay, as you know. So 4th and 5th were big. These were massive labor pains. They hadn't seen these size earthquakes in 20 years. Plus, they were massive messages. Again, look, 11 miles from Ridgecrest. I mean, there's 11s and stuff everywhere. It's so crazy. Okay, and then I won't get into all of it right now. But now check this out. This will blow your mind. Okay, now, so in this shot of Lily, and to the left, you see these heads of these figures behind her, which are presidents, and I don't know what they all are, but I've speculated about several of them. But right here at this angle, these all look kind of ovalish, right here, ovalish. This from this angle looks exactly circulish, circulish, circular, and it looks like a moon. In fact, guess what? It's a buck moon. See the buck coming out of it from this angle? And guess what? Full moon is the buck moon, the one in July on the 16th/17th, but it's here where I'm at. It's going to be the 16th mainly. So here's the buck moon right here. This is the buck moon, and we're in July, and check this out. Okay, the buck moon is July, okay? That's what it is. And it has to do with their antlers. They're regrowing their antlers and this time, so that's why it has to do with a buck, okay? And then check this out. This will blow your mind. These earthquakes that happened from basically most of July 4th going to July 5th made a 7. Let me go back here. They made a 7 right here. Look, a 7. And we even with a little line right there, but this is a 7. Okay, you see this 7 here? Now I'm showing you this. I did not know what this meant for a long time. I saw this upside down 7 on this moon shaped looking head. Now I know what it means. In the buck moon month, there is something scratched in the surface in a sense, or disrupted in the surface, upside down 7, and that's what this is. This is mind blowing. It's shaped like a 7. This is earthquakes shaped as like a 7. That's what this means, and it's happening in the month of the buck moon. This is crazy. Okay, I'm telling you. Okay, so now I think what's coming is going to be possibly a 7.7 earthquake. Now it's signaled by this 7, okay, and these 707s possibly, okay. Also, this is weird because this happened. This power outage happened on 6/16. But imagine if it actually is a month kind of forecast. So that would be 7/16, and I'm going to talk about 7/16 soon here. Okay, but the next day, and in this situation, I'm using the apple crossing the 7, and I haven't really used that because I didn't see enough substantial things. But I'm going to use that in this last set of 11 days. Okay, so basically, depending on when it falls, what time zone, it's July 11th, so 7/11. A lot of people are talking about 7/11. Certain people are talking about 7/11. I've been getting like, it's just crazy. By the way, the earthquakes happen on the 117th parallel, which is 7/11 backwards. A lot of crazy stuff with that. One thing I didn't mention, and I forgot to put it in the slides, and now that I'm thinking about it, the Trump met with the Pope. Remember, he was, I should have put a slide in here. I forgot to do that. He was dressed in black, and his family was dressed in black. And the women had veils over their, black veils over their face, all that stuff. And he met with the Pope. That was on May 25th, 2017. And up to this day, July 11th, guess what? That's 777 days ago. And so that's another signal of a possible earthquake of 7.7. So I'm guessing, possibly guessing on July 11th/12th, a magnitude earthquake in California, in Southern California, of a 7.7 plus. Now it could be a 7.8 because you have 7 and an 8 here, 7.8. It possibly could be an 8. It could be an 8.7. It could be 8.8. But I'm more inclined to think a 7.7 or 7.8 based on the imagery, or maybe just 7.7 based on what I see in a lot of the signaling is my guess. So this is my guess, okay, and see what happens. See if this proves out. See if this timeline's proving out. So, and then then a day later, when the apple hits Obama's foot, finishing out the 8th day from the July 4th and 5th and the 8th day going to July 12th/13th, I expect a major World War III escalation event right in there, depending on the time zone and everything, and when it actually happened. Now, it might happen July 12th and then report on the 13th. It might actually technically happen on the 13th. But if you're in a different time zone, it could be on the 12th, wherever you're at. So it depends. So I'm saying July 12th, 13th will be the 8th day, and some major major escalation of World War III. That's what I'm saying. Based on this pattern, this code that I think I found, that I'm trying to prove this, my theory. Okay. And then ultimately to the very last days of the third set of 11 days, July 15th and 16th, which is the splitting of the apple, which is the submarine on basically showing as an example. On one side shooting up a missile and shooting a missile on both. These are both coasts. This is West Coast because it's Obama's foot because he's from Hawaii. This is the East Coast because there's two submarines. You don't need two submarines on the West Coast where Hawaii is. Using one to hit Hawaii to cause a tsunami. And then this is the submarine shooting up, and then on this side is representing for both of these the tsunami wave that's going to happen. And so I'm saying July 15th to the 16th, very possibly. Again, I'm speculating. I am trying to prove a theory, and if you don't like it, tough. I don't care. But you know what? I want to show you something too. See this? See this? This looks like a three-dimensional volcano shooting up right here. And there's another one right there, three-dimensional volcano, kind of the way the shading is, especially this one. You can see this is like a volcano. Of course, this is lava. This is Kilauea, but there's another way of seeing, because I showed on the outside before it split. You can see the volcano shooting lava, but also inside, it looks kind of like a three-dimensional sort of volcano shooting up here as these submarines shoot these missiles, these torpedoes, I should say, nuclear-tip torpedoes. Okay, so I expect the mega tsunamis east and west coast and Barry to be bearing down on the Gulf at the same time with a massive water, basically water breaking for the berth, and then maybe a day later or two, the nuclear war attack on the United States, which could be July 17th. Now, I never even thought about this. Several people, including my sister Pearl, have sent me videos which I watched. I'm not as convinced on some of these things. It's possible. I'm not going to say it's not, but I maybe have gotten there a different way. So this may even prove out to be correct. So, and actually I forgot to put a slide, but when you put these two together, this one and this one together, and it forms a flower, and the flower blooms. In the middle of the flower, or whatever that thing is in the center of a flower, there's 12 of them. And so that could be the 12th day, which would actually be July 17th. So without even realizing it, I got there. So whatever, so be it. Okay, but this is the best I can do. All I can do is follow the Lord Jesus. That's all I can do. And by the way, down here, and I've never really mentioned this too much, but down here, because I didn't know how it fit, right here is an X. There's a 1, 1, 1, 1, or I, and then a line through it, which is 5. So 10, I believe these are possibly Roman numerals. 10 and 5 is 15. And look, July 15th. Possibly. This is crazy. So anyway, there's so much in this. And I'm just going to basically leave it at that. There's so much more I could talk about. I just don't have the time, and I had to get this out today before tomorrow. So take from it what you will. Hopefully it's somewhat of a persuasive argument, at least just a possibility to look and go and be prepared. Or if this stuff happens and hey, listen, Jesus is showing me stuff, but I can't say I can always put it together correctly. But I think along the way I put a lot of things together, and I have predicted, not technically predicted, but I have said things ahead of time that have pretty much happened, but I didn't know the exact events. But I've done it several dates, several times, based on, the only reason I even knew is because of what I've speculated on iPet Goat. So there's some evidence that there is a lot of information in this video, this 7-minute video. It's just crazy. So I'm done. My voice is done. I am tired. It's late. I've got to upload this. It's going to take a little while to get this uploaded. So I wish the best for all of you. and hopefully this does something for you, and we'll see what happens in the next few days. But I think we're really close to the end, whatever the time is. I mean, I don't know for sure. All I'm saying is this is the time of the attacks. We'll see what raptures and all that stuff happen. So I guess we'll just leave it. I'll leave it at that. Okay. So this is Exalted Lamb 1, over and out.